Hello and welcome. My name is David Dulock and I'd like to show you how to get started with Lavaca. So first I've pulled Lavaca from GitHub and this is Lavaca Starter. I'm actually going to be showing Lavaca Starter 4.0 even though at the time of recording 3.0 is the one that's out. If you want to use 4.0 it is in a branch called V4 but it should be out shortly, so probably not going to have any concerns there. Alright, so we have the code here, and the first thing we're going to need to do is to install our dependencies. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to pause the video and I'll be right back as soon as that's installed. We would do npm install to do so. Dependencies using npm install, and so now we've got a base project here, and let's take a look at the code real quick. We have a handy Sublime project, so if you want a filtered view of the code base, you can pull that open, and so we'll see the code base here. And the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to hop into build config, and we're going to want to name our app. There's some other config items here, but first of all we're just going to name the app my app, and our bundle ID here my app, and we're going to save that. And then just to show you a handy little tool we have, which is icon generation. So if you look in our source directory, you see our base icons. We got Android, web and iOS, and splash screens. And if you were to look down in here to our assets, you're going to see all of those icons. So if we want to generate the web icon, we would just simply do icongen.sh web, and it's going to generate those icons. Now let's demonstrate changing out that icon. So I have some pre-made ones here with a slightly different style, so I'll take them, copy them here into source, replace them. Okay, here's a different style. So if I ran this icon gen, then when we look in the directory, there's our nice favicon, and all the other icons there generated. And there's also a handy little thing where we can say that this is a production build and it is version 1.0.0, and it'll actually generate it with the version on the icon. So we look at those assets again, you'll actually see that these have the version and that we're running production. Okay, so let's do a multi-platform app. And so what we would want to do is we'd want to run grunt init Cordova. That'll initialize the Cordova. Oops, I misspelled it. Init with a T, and that will generate the Cordova folder here. And then if we want the iOS and Android platforms, we can do init platforms. That'll initialize iOS and Android. And let's go ahead and generate icons. So we did web earlier. Let's just do iOS, so we can have those. And then just to show that we've got it into iOS, let's actually run a build production And you can look at the grunt file to see the different options. We've got grunt build staging, grunt build production, grunt build local, and you can actually specify if you want grunt build production iOS, if you want iOS only, and create those builds. So we're building production. And what that allows us to do is here in Platforms iOS, we'll just do iOS for demonstration. You can see we've got our name already there. We'll open up Xcode even though it's still building back here. And we should see our app here. And we see that it's already built the version number in and the bundle ID. Okay, the build is done. So let's run it on, oops, actually I want to run it on a simulator so you can actually see it, not on my phone. Okay. And here it comes on simulator. There's our splash screen. And there's our hello world. Okay, so, and then we can see we've got the icon with the version number and everything. All right, so we're running on device. Obviously there's some issues here. We got the status bar in the way, but we'll actually fix that real quick and we'll see how that looks. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and close that down. Next we want to run that locally on our web browser for development purposes. So we just do the simple grunt task and open up our browser. So that's going to run on localhost 8080. So localhost 8080, and there's our hello world, our icon as well. There's two ways you can run this. You can run it as localhost just like that, or you can actually add in Webpack Dev Server, which will give you a little bit extra dev information and do a live reload. So we're going to do that while we're kind of building these pages out. So let's start building a few pages. So I'm going to kill the server, and another great tool we have is called Blueprint. And that helps generate the files for you so you don't have to build the individual files and connect them all together. So we're going to do Blueprint, and we're going to do a view. And we're going to just do a few views, link them together, and show some navigation. So we're going to create page 1. Oop, forgot grunt. Grunt, blueprint, view in page 1. Alright, so it's going to tell you some of the things that we need to add into our project. So first of all, we want to add in our less. So we're going to go over here to source, to CSS, and app.less. Here's where we'll add all of our references to our style sheets. And you'll see we've got view specific, so it already created that page view, more of a theme and a structure. So we'll save that. And then we need to add our page view to our controller. The controller is the thing that's going to link together your views and models for the router. So home controller here, we're going to need to add in a reference. Let me pull this over so you can see it better. I'm going to add a reference to page 1 view. Okay, and then we're going to add in the function reference to page 1. So we'll add that in here. Okay, so the home controller now has the reference, and the last thing we need to do is add in a route to that page. So that will be in app.js. It's kind of our base file for the application. We've got one to index to the home page and one to page 1. Okay, so now we've got page 1. Now it also tells you you can use this view as a child view within a view. but for now we're just going to do page level views. So let's generate a second page, page 2. Same thing here, we're going to copy in all the pieces. So we'll copy this into our app.less. Go ahead and close that because we're done. Close that, we're done. Add in our view, page 2, into our home controller. Page 2. Add in our function to the home controller. Okay, save. And we need to add our route to app.js. Okay, we'll add our route. All right, now we're going to relaunch the app. So we're going to run grunt. And then come back to our browser. You see it's disconnected until we get it started back up. And it reloaded, there we go. And there's our hello world. Okay, so now we need to add a few things to the template. So let's go to the home page. So we need something that's actually going to link to page 1. So let's put this in. We got a header with a page title, a content section, heading of home page, and a link to page 1 using the href. Okay, save that. And should see that. There we go. Home page, page 1. Okay, let's add something onto page 1. Going to do something very similar to page 1, but we're actually going to add a back button. So this is a handy little thing. With the href of back and rel equals back. Basically tells Lavaca you want to do a history back with that particular link. Links to our other pages here. Save that. And we want to do the same thing for our page 2 template, so we'll save that. Okay. And then let's add just a little bit of basic styling. I've got some pre-made stuff here that I'm going to copy in. And very simple stuff. We're going to add it at the theme level. So just a header style, styling the back button, styling the title, the content. And we're doing something specific here for if you're installed on iOS, we're going to handle that status bar and add an extra 20 pixels of space up there. So we'll save that. See our live reload happening back here. There we go. And I need to add one more thing, which is this back arrow. So I'll add that in real quick. I'm going to copy that into source, W, assets, img, add that back button in. Okay. So now we should have, when we go to page 1, we got a back button. We can go to page 2. You can see things change. We can go back. So everything's linking. What you'll notice is our header is missing. So let's show just a couple of different ways that you can add that in. Or our title is missing to the page. You see we added page title here. Okay, so one way we can do that is we can go to our view. So we come over here to page 1, or to home view. Let's do it at home view first. And here we're generating the HTML, rendering the template. So if we take this model right before it gets injected, we can set the page title equal to home and save that. And there we go. Home is there. So let's do it a different way on page 1. So on page 1, in this case, let's go to the home controller. On page 1, we see that we're creating a Lavaca model. You can see that by model is a Lavaca MVC model. And all that does is give you getters and setters, and also gives you some events that you can key off of for different things. There's a lot of details there we won't go into yet, but In this case, we're going to do model.set, and we're going to set that page title equal to page 1. And when we save that, we got page 1. Okay, so that just shows you a couple different ways that you can pull in that model data into your view. All right, so now we actually have where we can go home, page 1, page 2. Let's go ahead and add our page 2 title there just so we can see where we're going. The next thing I want to show you is some of the nice animation things that we've got built in for page level animations. So if we go over here to app.js, you have a little thing that you can turn on called breadcrumb tracking. So what that's going to do is it's going to change the animation based on whether you're going to a root page or not. And the way you handle that is if you add rel equals root, then that means it's going to be a root level animation. And then all other ones are going to be the other type of animation. And so the way you would use this is if you had like a left drawer or some sort of menu, all of those links should be the rel root, and they would just fade the page. But if you're drilling down, you go to a link elsewhere, you may want to slide in the page and show kind of more a contextual type animation. So if we enable that, init breadcrumbing, and we have our links here set up with rel equals root, then we should be able to go home. Let's refresh this just to make sure we've got it all loaded. And when we go to page 1, it slides in. On page 2, it slides in. If you go back, or history back, you're sliding back. And if you go home, it's going to fade. So it gives you kind of those contextual animations. And then another thing I want to show off is, let's remove this live web dev server or Webpack server. Okay, and there's another cool thing for iOS, which allows you to swipe history back. So in iOS 7, they introduced you can bezel swipe to go back in history. So we built that into Lavaca for you. So we have this swipe history back manager. And so if you go to this manager, now this thing is intended to only work if you're installed in iOS. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this off just so we can demonstrate this here in our browser. And you do have to turn on touch interactions with our sensors here. So we enable touch interactions and we come over here, and now if we go to page 1, we can actually swipe back. Oop, I need to reload. And we should be able to swipe back. So go to page 1, page 2, and actually swipe back to page 1, swipe back to home. And if you're home, you see you can't swipe back because there's no history. So it kind of handles that swipe back behavior. And you can change all of these animations very simply. There's a view transitions animation. We have different ones set. We've got one set for fade, got one set for slide, and slide up. So you could simply change these if you wanted. You could change our view manager, view fill in. This is where we set those. So the root page transition is the fade, page transition is the slide. Well, what if we wanted to change this to the slide up that we just saw in that reference? If we refresh this now, oh, that animation is broke. Not going to show that right now. Let's go back to the slide. But you can change those out and do a slide up animation or whatever type of animation you would like to do. Very simple to change those out just by changing the view transition animations. That concludes at least our get started video. I want to go into a lot more detail in later videos, but this at least gets you building a project, running it locally, building a few pages, showing off the animations that we've already got built in, and allows you to really get started very quickly.